Let me pull up the image for Christopher Carter Sanderson. Okay, so Christopher, while that image is up, I'm going to ask if you are able to join us. Here we go, and I will, nope, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to go live. Okay, so this year, because of the coronavirus situation, but other years, it was almost too much. If you'd walk around New York City, and there would be an enormity. Let me see. Christopher, is that you there? Okay, here we are. Christopher, there you are, sir. How are you?
Rodney, thank you for having me. I'm well. I hope you're well.
I'm doing fantastic. It's a pleasure to chat with you face to face, or whatever that means in the current, with the current limitations of the coronavirus pandemic. So, Christopher,
Yes.
for people who might not be aware of you and your legacy of who you are, I'm sure the majority of people that are in this chat, in this presentation, are utterly Shakespeare nerdy like myself, and they are well aware of who you are. But for anyone who might not, let me give them a brief recap of who you are and what Gorilla Rep is. So Christopher Carter Sanderson has, I believe they're still running, the group Gorilla Rep. And Gorilla Rep, Shakespeare in the Park has been around forever and a day, but in the late 80s and early 90s, Christopher and his group Gorilla Rep became kind of like the downtown alternative to the public theater and their presentation in Central Park. And they, for many years, played every year, every summer in Washington Square Park and a couple other parks around town. And they were known for their annual presentation of A Midsummer Night's Dream, which I caught, I think, I don't know how many years running. I caught that. I'll tell you, Christopher, one of the reasons I really wanted to chat with you tonight is that when I got involved in the Shakespeare scene in the early to mid 90s, of course, for me, one of the big things was the Shakespeare in the Park from the public theater. There was the year in the early 90s where Patrick Stewart did the reverse race Othello. And that for me was huge. That was for me, the end all be all. But once I saw that production and I said, hey, listen, I'm a young actor. I'm loving this. I got to get involved. I got to see what else is out there. Suddenly, a friend of mine turned me on to Gorilla Rep. And so I came downtown. I came down to Washington Square Park. And lo and behold, there's this amazing, just like thrilling a production of Midsummer Night's Dream being done. And you guys are running all around the park and you're doing all this amazing stuff. And it was so in your face and it was so energetic. And it became the thing that me and my friends every summer, the first thing when you plan, you had your 4th of July, you had your this, you had your that, but right up there for us was the Midsummer Night's Dream from Gorilla Rep. So that ran for many, many years. And then you guys went into some other productions. You did a very an amazing production of MacBeth in Fort Tryon Park uptown, and a bunch of other fantastic things. So Christopher, why don't you fill us in from your perspective as the producer of this amazing group about what Gorilla Rep was and how it all came to be.
Thank you, Rodney. I'd be happy to talk about Gorilla Rep. And thanks again for having me. I just wanted to let everyone know that, Rodney's obviously very kind and charismatic man. And in case you were wondering, pioneering means old.
You're letting him in on trade secrets.
Yeah, I know. So believe it or not, I really have been at this game for 34 years now, professionally.
Wow.
My first professionally directed and produced production in New York was in 1986. Believe it or not. Before Thanksgiving break of my first year at NYU, I was outside of the school. I found a place that somebody would let me use, and I made a show happen. And that's really how Gorilla Rep started in its sort of seeds. Was that I was attending New York University at the Experimental Theater Wing, but I was directing shows and producing shows professionally in the East Village, which was just an absolute hotbed for fantastic talent and audiences who would come and see things. And my thesis production at NYU was Hamlet, and I spent a whole year doing that. And I invented what I call the paratheatric rehearsal process, named after Grotowski's paratheatric process, of course. But for me, it's a rehearsal process for Hamlet. me and a bunch of guys, including Broadway's Michael Lawrence and other, fantastic actors who've gone on to fantastic careers and are still good friends, went to a crazy little outdoor rehearsal in a farm in Vermont, came back, did Hamlet, and by God, when I got done with Hamlet that spring, I was going to do a comedy next. I was like,
Okay.
I just spent a year really getting into this, and the production. I was terrified about the production, but it went wonderfully. We were packed every night. Richard Schechner showed up, which blew my mind. Richard Cheeslack showed up, which blew my mind. The United Nations Council from India showed up, which blew my mind.
Wow.
It was packed. It was, the talk of everything. And I was like, wow, the whole year wasn't wasted. But my God, it was a year of a tragedy. So I was living on Carmine Street. And so I walked over.
Italy, for those who might not know.
Carmine Street's very close to NYU. And I walked through Washington Square Park every day on my way to school, 721 Broadway, which is across the park, sort of catty-cornered from where Carmine Street is. And there used to be an even more elaborate playground than there is now at that corner right there in Washington Square Park. There was also no bathroom, which really sucked. But I was thinking, I'm going to do a comedy, dang it. I'm going to do my favorite comedy. I'm going to do Midsummer Night's Dream. I love that play. And then I walked up over these big skateboard hills that they used to have there, and I kind of looked down, and there was a kind of a weird old 1950s sort of U-shaped ladder and a big fort. And I was like, oh my God, somebody built my set. It's right here. Wow. And the funny thing is that over the years, they kept taking different parts of that playground apart and taking them away because they decided they were too unsafe for kids, right? But in the meantime, we jumped all over them, danced all over them, sang all over them, did Midsummer Night's Dream, which I've now directed over 25 times. People are always like, hey man, you direct so much Shakespeare. What's your favorite Shakespeare? And I'm like, Hamlet. And they're like, yeah, man, but you haven't directed Hamlet 27 times, motherfucker. I'm like, yeah, okay, I love Midsummer Night's Dream. I feel like it's about me. It's about us. It's about Shakespeare nerds, It's about people who love the theater and will just, do it professionally, come hell or high water or COVID or whatever. Right. So I got many of the actors who were in the thesis production that year came back and were in my first Midsummer Night's Dream in 1989 in Washington Square Park. And the last time I did Midsummer Night's Dream in Washington Square Park was, I believe I'm right on this, but I don't consider myself the company historian, but I believe it was 2015. So 20-something productions. I did a production in Oslo, Norway at Frogner Park, which was the same production, just remounted it there. And then we flew it over and did it one year. I did it in an armory in Scranton, just sort of done it all over the place. And then, as you say, we began adding, we got, luckily, the real secret to the company was two things. One, God, we worked hard. I was so lucky to get people who made me work hard. They made me want to be my best director and give them everything I possibly could to do every detail and operate every word of that amazing text, very physically. And as you saw, it came together as something of an aesthetic. And that was one thing. And the other thing was sheer luck. Rodney, you're not going to believe this, but a second string critic named Ben Brantley showed up to Midsummer Night's Dream in 1994.
That nobody?
That nobody. And he was nice about it. And you're thinking, so that was your break, right? And I'm like, no, that's not our break. Our break was that the following year during the winter, he got promoted to head critic, right? Wow. And then he shot off his mouth in an interview in the Village Voice saying he was going to keep in touch with the little companies that he loved as long as he economically could manage to do it. And so then we did King Lear in rep with Midsummer Night's Dream that summer. And I hired a publicist to remind him that he had said that, and he was kind enough to acknowledge it, and he showed up in that review of the King Lear in the New York Times by Ben Brantley. That was really what broke it open for the company. And we got National Endowment for the Arts supported us, the City of New York supported us, Laura Pels Foundation, Tony Randall Foundation. We just had wonderful, wonderful, kind donors over the years. And I like to think we're still doing live theater for people where they are. It's just where people where they are right now is terrified in their homes. Right. So now we're doing this really intense, what's been called #iPhone MacBeth, which is a complete, whole uncut text of
The image
Macbeth.
of that up right there.
Oh, hi, Image. That is Legato Robinson of Orange is the New Black and Bull and many other television programs. He's a fantastic Shakespearean actor who plays Macbeth. And that is Rohanna Kennan, who is our absolutely genius Hecate, who will scare the pants off you. This cast, this wonderful and delightful thing about this process of doing this film was, again, twofold. One, I've been talking about doing an all close-up Macbeth since, believe it or not, 2003. It's true. See, I said old. I'm old. I've been thinking about it that long. And finally, everything came together. The technology, everybody's got the cameras in their pockets in the form of the iPhone, which can shoot at 4K. You can shoot on your iPhone in a way that you can broadcast onto a 35-foot screen with no loss of picture image. So, and I've always done Shakespeare the way Shakespeare did it, with like 12, 13, 14 people and doing double casting and trying to be clever about it. But with the film, I could have one person, one fantastic, amazing actor per role. So throughout the entirety of Macbeth, there's just suddenly these fantastic actors come out of nowhere playing these intense parts in this intense play. And it's a cast of, I shit you not, 30 fantastic professional SAG and equity actors. They're amazing.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, you're hitting on something that for me is really interesting about the current situation, where we're all, for more or less, we're all kind of locked up at home. Of course, there's some back and forth, but for the most part, all what we traditionally knew as the New York theater scene, or wherever people are, as the live performance scene is kind of dead right now. But it's led to such an amazing outburst of creativity from people doing productions on Zoom, doing things on YouTube, on Facebook, on forums like this, on Instagram, and what you're talking about. Like, you just take your iPhone, and at this point, the technology is such that, I mean, back in the day, you had to have like this incredible rig to be able to do that kind of shoot. But now, anyone in your pocket, you have something that rivals in many ways what a professional film director could have.
Yes.
So you're able to produce this amazing thing.
That's true, but please don't let me make myself out to be a Prospero that I'm not, because that's true about getting the footage, and I can direct the footage and direct the acting, and the actors can do the amazing job that they do with Guerrilla Rep just into the camera, but we really wouldn't have been able to do the film without Baroness Films and Lisa Barron, who's the editor and cinematographer, who for some reason said, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll edit together the footage that you send me, and we can talk it over and get it done." And yeah, sure, I'm willing to work in this new model you're making, where I get a percentage of ownership of the film. Sure, sounds great. She's the wizardry behind it is something really worth mentioning too.
That's fantastic. All right, so Christopher, let's backtrack in time for a second. So when you were just starting out with Guerrilla Rep in the late 80s, what was the scene like? I came into the scene, as I mentioned, in the early to mid 90s.
Sure.
Was there a lot of Shakespeare being done outside of Shakespeare in the Park at that time?
No, absolutely not. There was none. Zero. Absolutely none. I'm sure that some intelligent people out there hearing me say that are thinking I'm full of shit, but I'm really not. And I recommend you take a look at my book. Don't buy it. Check it out at the library.
I'll give you that one. I have a copy of it right here. Yay! It's a fantastic book. It's get it on Amazon. Now, we had this conversation. It's a new book to me because I didn't know about it until just a week or two ago. But apparently it's been out since about 2003, and it's become a foundational text for theater groups that want to do outdoor performances.
And also immersive theater. We called it environmental theater back then. And then we started Guerrilla Rep officially in 1992. And Ann Hamburger started her company, On Guard Arts, in 1993. We were running around saying that what we were doing was environmental theater because we ran from place to places. We went from scene to scene without pausing or hesitating or condescending to the audience. She was doing something very similar, but she was having plays written specifically for the places that she was doing her shows. And she coined the term site-specific. So we called it environmental, but now it's called immersive. And yes, my book is often used for immersive theater classes, and I'm very proud to answer questions. Sometimes people look me up online and say, "Hey, I'm doing this class. Could you answer how did it happen?" And it's related to your question about how things were in the late 80s and early 90s, and the answer is that they were very fertile. I wish I had a better memory to tell you about meeting Jonathan Larson, but literally I was drunk as shit and out of beer at a loft party. and I like opened up this refrigerator in the dark, you know, and the refrigerator light was on, and it was like, it suddenly looked like fucking heaven to me, because it was all stuffed with beer, and there was all these German beers and all this stuff. And as I was staring at it, this really kind guy came up to me and said, "Have a beer." And I said, "Well, none of them are mine. I didn't bring any. I feel like a complete schlep. I really shouldn't." He's like, "No, it's my house. Go ahead, have a beer." And then he talked
Awesome.
a lot. He talked a lot about the wood stove that he had installed into the corner, and showed me how he had drilled a hole through the ceiling. That's how I met Jonathan Larson. Sorry, it's not more interesting. But people like that were running around doing really amazing theater in every basement, loft, attic, office that anyone would let them use for a weekend. My first really big commercial success was a production of Cowboy Mouth by Sam Shepard, which I did with a live rock band in the basement. I'm not lying, the basement of a funeral home in the East Village.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I'll never forget it. It was jamming. I remember the opening night. It's packed in the last person, and I was like, wow, I think people are, maybe they'll like it. It's great. It's really full. I went upstairs, and the woman who was helping me produce it sort of pointed out the door, looking scared. And I looked down the block, and there was this long line of people in black leather who were all cooler than I was ever going to be, who wanted to get into the damn thing. And Michael Lawrence was in that too. And you know what Michael Lawrence says about that production is, if everyone who says they saw it really did see it, we'd still be running. That's what the 80s and late 80s and the 90s were like. It consolidated around a street called Ludlow Street, which today people think of as, expensive bars and the occasional, remaining bodega for local color. But it was damn close to a slum. I lived on 4th Street between C and D, next to a burned out house and 2 doors down from a homeless camp. And the East Village was, the upside was that it was really cheap. And Ludlow Street was a whole lot of bars, and every block had some kind of reclaimed space for theater. You could go right from where Katz's is, you could go to the Pink Pony. There was one called the Piano Store. There was one called House of Candles, which had used to have been a candle place. There was, and all the way down until you got to the guys doing Shakespeare in the parking lot down at the very end of the street. But you could
expanded arts back in
expanded arts. You could go down on Ludlow Street in the early 90s, and you could go into a bar at about midnight with an idea for a show, and you could come out at 3 with a full cast and a dramaturg and designers and line designers and a theater booked for it. And and that kind of intense ability to make things happen and learn from really doing instead of sitting around thinking about it or talking about it was incredibly valuable, and it was a magical time and place. I don't want to be too nostalgic because it sucked to live in a racist environment. It sucked to live in a New York that was really, really, in a lot of ways, really shitty compared to what New York is like now. But it was pretty fucking amazing.
So are you gratified these days, because not right now in the coronavirus era, but in the past several years, to see all the different companies doing outdoor Shakespeare all around New York and every lawn, every green space?
Yes, I am absolutely delighted with it, and I have been since the beginning, and I have been since Guerrilla Rep's initial success. I mean, the reason I wrote the book was, let me put it this way: William Germano was the editor at Routledge who asked me to write the book, and he said, "Christopher, what I want you to do is think about all those people who have either seen your shows or all over the country have read the New York Times reviews of your shows, and they want to do a show like yours. I want you to write the book to help them do it." And I love that idea, and I embraced that idea, and it didn't surprise me that there were so many people doing it, because so many people would come to me, especially as Guerrilla Rep got more and more popular throughout the 90s, and ask for tips and help, and I was happy to give them. And I can tell you a couple of things that I've always told people, if you like, about doing it, but I can't say anything other than I'm just delighted with it.
Well, I think you. I remember seeing your shows, and I think it was one of the most exciting things that I would see in town. And
I hope you feel the same way about the film, because I'm really busting our nuts I'm busting my nuts. We're busting our butts to really take that quality of being in a audience of a Guerrilla Rep show and put it right there on your iPhone, right there in that 9:16 aspect ratio, which I think is perfect for the job. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just excited.
That's awesome. Now, so if now people want to see, guys, I can't. Whoever's watching this, whether live right now or going to be watching the rebroadcast of this later on social media, I can't stress to you enough how great a company Gorilla Rep is and has always been.
Thank you.
Strongly encourage you to check them out. Christopher, where can they come find you and find your book, find the new MacBeth, find all the Gorilla Rep stuff?
Sure.
Where can they go?
Well, you can always go on Amazon and look up Guerrilla Theater. It's spelled with an R-E because the publisher is Routledge. They're British. They insisted I spell it R-E. What can I tell you? I'm sorry.
Guerrilla Theater.
Right. If you are
backwards.
Guerrilla Theater. And we have a website which is Guerrilla Rep Theater with an R-E, Guerrilla Rep Theater. .org, which is if you look at it and you're surprised that there's very little on it, it's because we had a big problem a few years ago with somebody who had been in charge of taking care of the website. There was a big disagreement and a big problem, and we just haven't been able to reconstruct the website the way it was before. We developed it with a full history of our shows, and the full history of the shows is on the current website. But you know it is on the website, and this is important if you're an actor, if you're interested in Guerrilla Rep, if you're interested in working with me. I'm already in pre-production on my next film, which this is an exclusive scoop for you, Rodney.
What's that?
We're going to do Richard III.
Fantastic.
And the rumor is true that I've been speaking with my old classmates from Yale School of Drama, Broadway's Jennifer Lim, about playing Richard III.
Now that's exciting.
You heard it here first.
That's
but
exciting.
On there,
New York Shakespeare exclusive.
A New York Shakespeare exclusive. And if you're an actor and you're interested in working with me, just drop me a line on there, which is it has an easy email address, which is Guerrilla Rep Theater with an ER at Gmail and .com, of course. And also keep an eye on Breakdown Express and Actors Access. That's where Guerrilla Rep always advertises for professional actors. I should mention that I'm a big fan of unions and of professional actors, and I think that actors should always be paid for the work that they're doing in front of paying audience members, which means that our film is, of course, a SAG film, although you can get in it if you're not SAG. It's just that we are utilizing SAG agreement to make sure that the actors are treated well. And we always have an agreement with Equity for our productions in New York City. Which doesn't mean you have to be Equity, but it means we really take treating the actors right seriously.
I can't wait to check out the new MacBeth and all the other wonderful things that you're up to. Christopher, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us tonight, and I hope we get a chance to chat again soon.
Me too, Rodney. Thank you so much. Hey, everyone, stay safe.
You got it. All the best. That was Christopher Carter Sanderson of Guerrilla Rep, one of the great groups, and really, for me, every summer, their show was the show that I had to check out. Why don't you, everyone who just heard that interview, give us your reaction, give us a thumbs up, give us whatever you want to. If you have any questions for Christopher, maybe if we have time at the end of the broadcast, I'll have a chance to bring him back on, or we'll have a chance to ask him those questions. But now it's